Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with Monday Special. A little caption of what we'll be delving into tonight. All children born to mothers out of wedlock have a right to have their father's name inserted into their birth certificates, the court has ruled. The news for single mothers came after Judge Mumbi Ngogi declared Section 12 of Births and Deaths Registration Act unconstitutional. What do you think? Is it a step in the right direction? You can share your views on 22422, leave your name and location, and use the hashtag MondaySpecialKE on Twitter. Let me introduce you now to our panelists. On my far right, we have Cindy Ogana. She is a journalist, very passionate about the issue, and also a single mom, so she'll share her views on the same. We have Adrian Kibai, who is a social media strategist. He's also against the ruling, and he'll share his views as to why. Right next to me, on my left, we have Silvana Sosoro, who is a lawyer and a businessman. He's for the ruling. And then we have family lawyer John Swaka, who's going to unpack this for us. Thank you all so much for joining us on Monday Special. John, maybe we'll just start by asking you to explain what this ruling means. There seems to be a lot of misconceptions or misunderstanding around what does it mean?
Well, the ruling was a correction or a challenge to Section 12 of the Registration of Births and Deaths Act. And you realize that that particular section, number 12, did in a way or another discriminate between children born out of wedlock and children born within a marriage. And again, it did discriminate on women who get children within a marital setup and women who perhaps got children also out of wedlock.
Okay.
Yes.
So who does this ruling affect? Is it a must? I think is what a lot of people are asking. If there's a single mother who perhaps doesn't see that as a necessity, does she still have to sort of like apply by it?
No, initially the law said that for children born out of wedlock, then the consent of the father was to be sought before this particular father's name will be included in the birth certificate. But now what we have basically is a situation where, is a scenario where a mother, if she decides not to, it's okay, but where she feels that she needs to insert the name of the father, then nothing stops her from doing that. Of course, the ruling also went ahead to qualify and to say that this will be subject to DNA testing, will be subject to notification of the father who will be, so as nobody is taken by surprise, and where you feel like you need to challenge because you don't agree with the insertion of your name, then there are legal remedies under which you can invoke, like DNA and the rest. I think it's good to clear that up. Let's maybe head over now to Adrian and Cindy. Cindy, you are against this ruling. What are your reasons for that?
Well, there's so many situations as to how a woman becomes a single parent. And I feel this ruling does not take into that, it does not consider how somebody becomes a single parent. For example, it's not necessarily that the girl had a one-night stand, you know, or she was promiscuous. It could be that she was in a loving relationship and they parted ways, and this man is not willing to be part of the child's upbringing. Now, to have a ruling like this brings in a whole new different ballgame when it comes to, as the lawyer, our learned friend has duly said, it's subject to a couple of things. Now, if the man decides for whatever reason he is not for it, this woman has to deal with the fact that she's not only a single parent, she's bringing a child into this world and raising him or her by herself, but now she has to fight this guy in court to have his name in the birth certificate. I think it should be left to choice. And it shouldn't be law.
All right, before we hear from Adrian, Sylvanus, what are your thoughts?
There is nothing unique in this law. It's actually constitutional. The learned Justice Mumbi got our motivation from Article 53 of the Supreme Law of the Land, and subsection 1A, which is clear that every child has a right to have a name of the parent. That is 1A. 1E goes further to state, I mean, every child has the right to parental care and everything, regardless of whether you live with the mother or the father or wherever he's separated.
Okay, let me stop you there and now add on to what Cindy had said, that perhaps the father is not in this child's life. perhaps the father hasn't been a part of or doesn't want to be. Does it still make it fair?
You know, the choice starts from the word go. This mother, after getting the baby, the matter of choice starts from this mother going to the death and birth offices to apply for the birth certificate. So the choice starts from there. She can decide not to, include the name or not. But if she decides to include the name of the father, nobody should deny her that. And what the Lyra judge stated, she just said that Section 12 of the deaths and birth registration was unconstitutional because it required somebody to seek consent from the father.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, my take on this is that you do realize that when you have the father's name on the birth certificate, it implies that there are issues of inheritance that come in. There are other legal issues that are attached to the name being on the paper. So when you find that in a case where maybe sorry to say this, but some ladies might try to take advantage of the situation where they just want to fix in somebody. So in cases where there is fixation, maybe you say that there was a cover-up, but in the sense, I'm arguing from the point of view that in case you... So what happens when you impose a dad on a kid?
There are so many misinterpretations already.
That's the thing.
Over Justice Mumbi's law.
Let's let Cindy talk, and then we'll hear from you.
And the misinterpretations can be taken advantage of. By the time a woman is carrying a child to term and dealing with paternity issues, there are so many other things that underlining factors that have to be considered. So if it's a very delicate law, and I feel like it can, as I agree with Adrian, people can take advantage of it, but I think the problem lies in the misinterpretation.
Very briefly before we hear from John.
Let's be very honest. It takes two to get a child. Men should just own up. True. That is one.
But they don't. Not everybody does.
Exactly. Men should simply own up.
So what if they don't?
I mean, if they don't, we are actually discussing the issue of name.
Yes.
Inheritance does not really necessarily need a name to be the birth certificate for you.
But we are cultural. A name is cultural.
There is something I need to put here very clearly. Justice Mumbi Ngugi never misinterpreted, or rather, the ruling is so straightforward and constitutional. She actually read the Constitution as it is.
Okay, Silvana,
as we passed it in 2010.
Let me stop you there. John, break this down for us. Misinterpretation.
Yes.
It's online. It's on my text messages as well.
That's right.
So maybe just simplify it for us in layman terms.
I think what the gist of the ruling is that Section 12 of the Registration of Births and Deaths Act was in contravention with Article 27 and Article 28 and Article 53 of the Constitution, which actually provides for the rights of the child as read in tandem with the Children's Act. And so what the judge sought to say is that a child has a right to identity, and that where a child has been born, let the names of the fathers actually appear as well.
Okay.
And this will actually lead to other things, of course. The child will have an identity, the child will have somebody to connect with, the child will have some sort of social security.
All right, John, let's go to the concerns that Cindy and Adrian are raising. For example, he said, what happens if there's a scenario where a woman may want to fix, so to speak, a man? And these are just some of the scenarios being painted. So how does it work with regards to this ruling?
Yes, you cannot actually walk away from such scenarios because you realize that every law is subject to being abused, even right to assembly. Right. People can assemble for other reasons. And so the law cannot stop such scrupulous people from coming over, but there are mechanisms. When you look at the ruling, she doesn't just say that any name written there becomes law, you are the father. She says, notify the father. It goes ahead to say, if peradventure a father or somebody who has been put in as a father will want to challenge it, there are legal mechanisms. Go for DNA, go for any other process that can actually prove your case.
So it's not cast in stone.
It's not cast in stone.
I think that's the feeling that a lot of people are getting, is that it's cast in stone and that this... Yeah, you want to comment?
The issue of fixation that maybe some women want to fix. When these people are two, whatever they do, people can't tell. What I'm simply saying, there is a product that came out of that. There is an item that came out of that, and that is a child. You cannot subject a child to your own trauma. You must allow the child to enjoy. I mean,
what if the trauma is rape?
And by the way,
what if the trauma is rape? Because you're assuming that the consummation was mutual, or it was consensual, or it was in a marriage. What if she was raped? You know, you can't say what the two people do.
If she was raped, you know, the issue here is the mother going to seek consent to have. If she opts not to have the father's name on the birth certificate, that is okay. Now, I wanted to look at that point.
So what happens if she remarries? If she puts this guy's name, the father's name, I have to be respectful, to put the father's name in the birth certificate, and she remarries and she wants to change the father's name, will there be now another amendment of the law?
Can I ask John to answer that?
First of all, before I answer that, we must understand that the law cannot be taken in isolation. Whatever the judge, the landed judge came up with, when you continue reading the ruling, actually she says, and I've described the scenarios under which all that can be verified and tested. But you must also understand that we have the penal code within our statutes, which actually criminalizes those kind of attitudes where somebody will say you are the father, yet you're not the father. If the process actually comes out to negate what she's saying, then definitely that's a criminal offense for giving false information concerning a paternity to a child. And now coming to a question, I think you asked that
if she remarries.
If she remarries.
If you remarry,
and she wants to add a new name.
That cannot take away the right of the child to have the father's name. Though parents can actually get into a consent, they can actually agree on the way forward, but it does not take away the right of the child to have the name of their biological father on the certificate. Yeah, so I don't think that's really a challenge to such a child, because what the judge was trying to say in her ruling is basically that a child who would want to have the father's name on the certificate should not be denied that particular right. I
have a scenario where the mother approaches the biological father, and the biological father says, no, I do not want my name. DNA, everything is done, it proves that he is 100% the biological father, but he doesn't want to be on the birth certificate. Then the mom goes ahead and puts it. Isn't that now giving the children's court a whole new other, more case files? Shouldn't it just be left to two people to understand?
Some people are a bit misadvised. They think that if your name does not appear on the birth certificate, then you're not required to perform parental obligation.
You have no responsibilities.
The law is clear that where you are sued and you deny paternity, we'll go through the process of determining whether you're the father or not. So even if your name does not appear on the certificate, but DNA confirms 99.99 you are the father, then you automatically assume parental obligation or parental responsibility.
But then again, I think we have to put the child's interest first, right? Because I feel that we are imposing fatherhood on people who don't want to be fathers, right? Because in this case, you'll fine, have my name there, but I'll only be a father, but not a dad. In the sense that okay, fine, I'll even bring the money, I'll do everything, but the child's interest comes first. If the child comes to ask you who is my father, between the person who takes care of me, between the and the person who pays the bills, and the person who maybe is on the certificate.
What's in a name? You can answer before we hear from Sylvanus.
It's beyond parental obligation. What is being sought here is more or less social security, where the child is able to identify with the father and maybe his or her relatives, and you know, the child is able to know that I belong to some people.
But social security doesn't come from a name. Social security comes from how you raise a child and you make them belong. If you can have the father's name, but if the father is not part of his life, there's a permanent indentation in the certificate to show that this man was never interested in my upbringing. And now the law allows the man to put that man's name and to be a permanent reminder to this child that he or she was unwanted. That is some of the things that I think that we are worried about.
Sylvanus.
You know, I think we need to look at the history of this matter that was before Lady Justice Mumbi, where the lady went to court because she was denied. You know, she was required to have parental the dad's consent, like as Section 12 states clearly. Actually, she wanted the name to appear in the birth certificate. And she was denied because Section 12 of the registration of births and deaths denies her that without her consent. Then she went to court. She sued the AG and she sued the registrars and said, okay, fine, is this thing right? And the court's ruling was Section 12 is unconstitutional. You do not need consent. So what I'm trying to say is this. This issue of dad, father, only come within the mother. You are the one who wants the name there. If you don't want the name, it's okay, live with it.
But the terms and conditions
if you want the name,
aren't there.
If you want the name, you don't need consent. That
you
is
can go ahead and put the man's name.
Yes.
Which brings again the question, you can put any man.
If you put any man, if you put any man, and you know, putting any man, I might not even be knowing today that there's some lady somewhere who applied today to have the name also sort of put there. I don't know, but if that happens, no problem. In case I'm served with anything, maybe you know, maintenance or something as Section 53 requires or something, as a man, what I'll do, it's my obligation to probably confirm from this woman. I mean, are you sure I'm the father of this child? If I am contesting that, then the next course of action is seek restitution in court.
So basically it can be contested. Exactly. I think that's what people need to... Cindy and Adrian, I know you... Is this bringing any form of clarity or a sense of, okay, I suppose it's not cast in stone?
No.
You're still not... There's still no conviction.
The acceptance, my acceptance will only come at the point where the child is put first in all of this. Because the child, we are looking at emotional trauma in a sort of way, because the child, fine, they will want to feel like they belong to a lineage or a family tree or something, but does this father really want the child to belong there? The child might want to belong, but the father doesn't. So the mother might think that, okay, fine, the child, this is the child's best interest, but does the child have a say in this?
Can I ask a quick question, a practical one? And this is from someone that wrote in, if they want to travel, for example, I know that nowadays proof of parental consent is very crucial. I went through it, trust me. They want every single document from the partner, from a copy of the passport to a picture, etc. So in a scenario where the woman is still contesting or doesn't really have a partner in her life, what happens now regarding this ruling if she decides to take her child, her baby if it's a 7-month-old, 6-month-old out of the country? Will she be faced with those challenges when she goes to travel?
First and foremost, before I answer you, I'd like to go back and just address something that having the name of the father on the certificate does not automatically make that father responsible. And the absence of the name of the father also does not make the father irresponsible. It's just a matter of the heart.
We agree.
And coming to that, we've had scenarios, of personal handle scenarios, where much as the father's name maybe did not appear on the certificate, he signed papers and said, I'm consenting to my child being given a passport and flying out. We've had others even appearing on the certificate and saying, no, I want my child within the jurisdiction of Kenya. And so it's something that parents must sort out, and where one becomes difficult, then we have legal mechanisms and legal recourses which can settle it. You can get a court order that actually gives you the power to be able to sign the document and have the child actually travel.
I think my concern is we are assuming that every if this, because it's not yet law, right? We are, if it does become law, we are assuming that every lady knows, and look at Kenya as a nationwide scenario, right? We're assuming that even the lady in my up country or in the county level know that they have this right, right? Or the men know that they have the right to ask for a DNA test. So where I come from, if it becomes law and a lady gives birth and the pregnancy is contentious, we are assuming that the man knows that he has the right to go and ask for a DNA test. Probably this man can't even afford to buy airtime. We're assuming he can afford to go and pay for a DNA test. Now, in the scenario where that can't happen, and the lady has, now does not need to seek permission, the man's name is in the birth certificate, isn't this causing more problems than we already have as a nation?
As we wind up, can you answer that and then we can get your response as well?
The issue of practice has been this in the law courts, that where you deny paternity, then either the court can say each party raise half of the amount, then the party that loses reimburses the other one, or you father, you go ahead, pay for it, If she loses, reimburse. So there's a mechanism under which both parties can actually be catered for financially to break out the truth. But where you're saying, the father they can't afford, then the court has the power to actually imply paternity on you because you are unable to shake it out.
Okay.
And so parties are usually given an opportunity to actually try and work it out, where the party that loses reimburses the other one, and so forth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
It does make sense. My worry is just the interpretation of this law in county level.
In county level.
If everybody will understand
that
they have an option, or if they'll just take advantage of it. So,
Vanessa, your closing comments?
The problem with law, you might not really understand, but you must follow it as it is. Ignorance is no defense. My closing comments are that deadbeat parents, these fathers who decide to take advantage of young girls, that I tend to think that what the learned judge was thinking in her ruling, she was actually looking at these people who take advantage of small girls and then give them kids and run away all through and just avoid them completely.
So force them to be fathers.
People should learn to own up right from the word go. By the way, it's true, sometimes when you take a matter in court of the issue to paternity and stuff, birth certificate is very important. Having the name in the birth certificate, prima facie at least has some say on prima facie before you proceed. But however, it's not the thing that having that name now you really get affected in case the father.
Are you more passionate about this as well because you're a father?
I really feel that people should own up. Seriously. I mean, don't just give out kids all over. I mean, own up.
But also don't force them to be fathers.
All right, let me very quickly, John, before I hear from Adrian and Cindy.
Perhaps just to underscore into a bit streamline what my learned friend is trying to say. I'll not paraphrase this like people taking advantage of maybe young girls, but I'll say it's so to correct.
Okay.
Children born out of wedlock. But the children born within wedlock, there's no issue. We've seen actually fathers actually agreeing to signing and saying we are the fathers.
It's the children born out of wedlock.
Children born out of wedlock.
All right. Does that convince you that the children's interests are first, Adrian, as you wind up?
Okay. In a way, I agree. Like 50%, I agree with the thing. But the other 50% questions most of these loopholes that seem to appear in this thing. Because, okay, fine, you want to take care of the women who have to struggle to get men to own up. But do you also consider that maybe the women don't want the men in their lives at all? Do you also consider that maybe the men don't actually want to be fathers? Do you actually consider there's a lot to consider before you say it's 100% law? Yes, so before it gets passed, my appeal would be just try and maybe fit an angle or two that takes care of this.
And seal the loopholes.
Yeah, seal all the loopholes. Because I know law is all about loopholes, by the way. you look for these things and you'll put in whatever you want to plug in right there.
All right.
Okay,
Many thanks for that, Adrian. Finally, Cindy.
I think Justice Mumbi, her heart was in the right place, but I think it's a bit misplaced for this one. Maybe we can focus on schools that do not admit children from single parents. Maybe we can focus on that. That should be unconstitutional. But as you said, what happens between two people should remain between two people. It should not be made law. Because as Adrian has said, there's so many loopholes and there's so many other factors that people don't consider. And there's so many ways that people can take advantage of this law that I feel that probably her priorities were misplaced. That let's deal with the protection of the boy child, maybe ensuring that there is free entry to, regardless of whether you're a single parent or from a nuclear family, let's focus on that. But issues of paternity, what's in a name?
This is probably another case of boy child under attack. I mean, who am I to say?
Another discussion. John, I think when it's signed into law, you'll have to come back and completely break it down. Thank you all so much. It's a very touchy subject, I believe. I think we'll be exploring it more. We'll be right back after the break with some of your feedback on Monday.